Welcome back to another video about public speaking. Now that's how you put an audience to sleep. My name is Shanice, and today we are exploring what separates captivating speakers from cure for insomnia presenters: vocal variety and delivery. You see, your voice isn't just how you communicate, it's also how you connect. The thing that most speakers don't realize is that your audience processes vocal information a lot faster than visual information. Within milliseconds, your audience is going to be judging your confidence level, your credibility, and your competence purely based on how you sound. Research shows that vocal variety, changes in pace, pitch, volume, and pause increase audience retention by up to 38%. Yeah, you heard that right, 38%. So, what does that mean? Note I took a pause there. It means that you have to master the four pillars of vocal variety if you want to give a compelling speech or become a really great speaker. So let's go through them, shall we? First of all, let's talk about pace. What happens when you're nervous? You either start to talk really fast or really high pitched. Exactly. Confident people don't tend to be rushed when they're speaking. So, what you want to do as a speaker is you want to vary your pace strategically. Slow down for really important points and speed up just a little for stories or for examples, and then return to what we call your baseline. Your baseline is typically a paced way in which you speak most of the time. So that's number one. Number two, pitch. This one's my favorite. You want to avoid the dreaded monotone. Your pitch needs to kind of rise and fall naturally, like a normal conversation. End statements with a downward inflection to sound authoritative. Save upward inflections for questions. Those are actually inflections that I used right now. So remember, your voice is an instrument. You actually want to be able to use it as such. Next, let's talk a little bit about volume. So this isn't about shouting. It's really about the powerful moment when you drop your voice and people lean in so that they can catch every single word. And then you return to your baseline. Strategic volume changes do create emphasis, but without strain. Now, the thing about it is, if you change your volume very dramatically, not only do you sound like you're straining your voice, but people will feel the strain within themselves. Because remember, there is something powerful called mirror neurons, which is how we are feeling. We can transmit that from ourselves to our audience. So, volume is really something you want to modulate strategically as opposed to going really loud and then really low all of a sudden. It happens gradually. And last but not least, this is my favorite because I feel this is the most underutilized tool in speaking. And I want to share a little story here. One of my favorite speakers, and I'm biased maybe, is my sister. Nancy Kachungera is an amazing speaker. She's on the BBC for a reason. She's put in a lot of work, time, and energy in honing her craft. She was moderating a gig once and she walked into the room. It was a room full of high powered, high flying lawyers, and everybody was talking. She stood there and people kept on talking. Now, your average speaker, what would they do? They would lean into the microphone and say, "Excuse me, please. Excuse me, everybody. Can I have your attention?" That's what the average speaker would do. And to their credit, they wouldn't be wrong. But what did she do? She simply stood there and she looked at her audience boldly, bravely. Eventually, one person looked up and saw her standing there quietly looking at the audience. That person then nudged their friend and said, "Hey, I think something's going on." Do you see where this is going? And so on and so forth until the entire room, in a span of about 2 to 3 minutes, which, by the way, when you're on a stage feels like an eternity, eventually the entire room fell silent. And then she said, "Thank you for your attention. I believe we're now ready to commence." What power! There is so much power in pausing. There is so much power in allowing silence to speak for you. Now, of course, you have to learn to use this strategically. You can't just be quiet for no reason, but you have to be able to use pauses for emphasis, to let important points really sink in, but also to give yourself time and space to breathe and think. So, here are a couple of exercises that can help you expand your vocal range immediately. Number one is the pitch ladder. Say hello 5 times, each time at a different pitch level. Start low, go high, find your optimal range. So you can start something like hello, 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 hello. It sounds silly, but the more you do it, the more practice you get in, the more you'll kind of find your optimal range and you'll be comfortable with dropping and raising your pitch. It doesn't happen organically or automatically. You've got to practice it. Secondly, is the volume scale. You count from 1 to 10, starting with a whisper and ending at your maximum comfortable volume. That builds something called vocal control, where you're able to control your vocal cords. And then the pace pyramid. Recite the alphabet A, B, C slowly, then D, E, F, G faster, then H, I, J, K, L slowly again. This will train your brain to vary pace intentionally. Usually, we are at the mercy of our voice based on our emotions. We speak faster when we're angry. We have no control over it whatsoever. You have to learn to be the master of your voice, not the other way around. So when you do this, A, B, C, D, and you intentionally do it slowly, you are telling your voice that you're the boss, not the other way around. So you want to try this as often as you can. Now, there's a couple of common vocal mistakes that you want to avoid, right? It wouldn't be a session if we didn't talk about the mistakes. So let's start with the first one, and that's uptalk. These are really, really three deadly vocal mistakes that kill your credibility. Ending every statement like a question. This makes you sound uncertain about your own expertise. Now, I have to make a confession here. I am not perfect. Even though I do this for a living and I know all the tips and tricks and tools of the trade, I still find myself doing this. For example, lately I find myself saying, you know what I mean? Now, you probably have said that a few times, but it does damage your credibility. Why do you need someone to sign off? Why do you need someone to say, yes, I know what you mean, as if they're dumb or as if you're not communicating clearly? A more powerful thing to say, a more powerful thing to ask would probably be something like, can I clarify anything? Or is it clear? This means that you feel like it's clear, but it might not be. And so you're covering your bases, as opposed to questions that make you uncertain and make you sound uncertain as well, as if you are looking for validation. So we've talked about uptalk. The second one is vocal fry. Vocal fry is that creaky, rough sound at the end of sentences. It kind of undermines your authority, especially for us as female speakers. So you might kind of just talk a little bit and then suddenly it just at the end goes creaky and rough. It's not it's not refined. And that's because you're either nervous or you haven't practiced or you're not sure of what you're saying or you feel intimidated by your audience. Learn to leave things where they are and end on a strong note. And last but not least, you've heard this one a lot, but this one happens to everybody and it is just something you have to practice. Filler overload. Filler words are words like uh, like, and you know. So, you know that thing when we go up and hmm, silence is better than filler. I do this all the time. If I feel like I am not sure about the next sentence, I keep quiet. So I can talk. See, that was a pause right there because I was taking the time to think. And as my sentences continue, if I feel like I'm losing my words or I'm not too sure what I'm trying to communicate, I actually either deliberately slow down or I actually pause for a bit and gather my thoughts. It's not easy, it takes practice, but it's so worth it. So let's put it all together. Let me show you how this sounds in practice. Okay? Success in business isn't about having the best idea. It's about communicating that idea in a way that moves people to action. When your voice has variety, your message has power. Notice how each vocal change served the message and didn't distract from the message. That's the power of vocal variety and vocal delivery. So, as we've said, because your voice is your most powerful instrument, you need to master the pillars of pace, pitch, volume, and pause. And when you do, watch your influence soar. It's not really what you say all the time, it's what you say plus how you say it that determines whether people listen or tune out. Next week, we're going to explore body language that commands attention. Until then, I'm Shanice. And remember, your voice is yours to command, not the other way around. So make it count.